I'm going to talk to you tonight about strategic default. What's a strategic default? Who does it? How does it work? In 2007, the Mortgage Bankers Association bought a $75 million building in Washington, D.C. And in 2010, they walked from it. They went 7 blocks down the road and rented another building and walked away from their $75 million building. Why did they do this? They did it because the mortgage on it was greater than the value of the building. It had lost 30% of its value and therefore was no longer worth the mortgage on it. They did a strategic default. How did we get here? How did we get in the position that mortgages are greater than the fair market value of houses? In the 2000s, in this time frame here, banks needed product. They needed lots of product so that they could package them together and create these derivatives. You've probably all heard and probably don't even understand collateralized debt obligations and mortgage-backed securities and credit default swaps. These were all derivatives of mortgages. They packaged them, they cut them up, they sold them, they resold them, and they resold them. It was somewhat of a Ponzi scheme. And they had to keep the loans going. They had to get more and more and more of them so they could do more and more and more of it, so they could make billions of dollars. And in the process, prices went up. This is a graph, a history of home values. I suggest that these are home values when you're talking about down in here, but these are home prices when you come up here. Who got caught in this? Everyday people. People that said, gee, I really need a bigger house, I've got more kids. They might have sold their other house and then moved up, and they happened to do it in this time frame. And they got caught. They got caught buying a house that was worth more than what will ultimately be its value. This foreclosure started to happen, and when foreclosures happen, prices drop. And the more prices drop, the more people become underwater. And the more people that become underwater, the more foreclosures we have. There were 3 million homes that were foreclosed upon in the United States in 2010. There are 7 million threatening it now. There are 12 million homes in the United States underwater. In Nevada, 65% of the homes in Nevada are underwater. In California, it's 35%. In Arizona, it's 47%. In some of the other states, it's not so bad, such that the overall is 1 in 4 homes, or 12 million homes that are underwater. The banks came up with a narrative that borrowers should not have borrowed all that money when they couldn't afford those homes. That was the narrative that they came up with to justify what they had done to our whole globe. They did it to the globe because they sold those mortgage-backed securities, those derivatives, all over the world. They sold them to pension funds. One of the reasons the pension funds are in such bad shape is they've got funky mortgages in them. So where do we go from here? I might be perspicacious because it was in May of 2009 that I said, you know, until principal balance come down to the fair market value, our economy and our housing sector will never recover. I saw that as the solution to the problem then. And I think it's still the solution. Until the principal value of all of these, the principal value of these mortgages goes down to the fair market value of those houses, we're not going to recover. there is no recovery possible in our economic life when it comes to the housing sector. And if you read economists, they all say that housing is what brings an economy back to life. It is my recommendation then that all of the people who are underwater walk from their homes, just like the Mortgage Bankers Association. If we can get a critical mass of people to do that, if we can, and that's a big if we can get a critical mass of people to do that, we will bring the bankers to their knees. We will get them to think about this. I recommend that everyone that is underwater now start writing to their lender saying, drop my principal balance down to the fair market value. I'm doing that with a mortgage I have that's $200,000 underwater. It's $200,000, and every time I make the mortgage payment, I say, this house is not worth the mortgage on it. Drop the principal balance or I'm going to do a strategic default. I say that every time I send a mortgage payment, every month. You will hear some pushback. People will say, well, why should their mortgage be dropped and my mortgage isn't dropped? Well, if all the mortgages don't come down to the fair market value, then prices are going to keep going. So the guy next door's house is going to go down in value until we stabilize this. So that's the rationale. The other rationale or the other concern, and people say, oh, but my credit rating. Believe me, credit rating is just another fear-mongering tool that banks use to keep control of us. So, in conclusion, it is my recommendation that everyone that is underwater, we get together and at one point in time we say, let's stop making our mortgage payments, let's force the banks to bring the principal balance down to the fair market value. Do a strategic default. Thank you very much.